I mean, you can just position yourself as you like.
Okay. Is my hair all right, or should I?
Yeah, I think you look pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah?
Look at that. As I look back then at what might be common in these otherwise very different lands and cultures, the United States and New Jersey and France, it is that in some episodes I see I have portrayed people who are humane. For instance, there is a sequence in the American New Jersey side in which a judge is is actually sentencing two recreants in Hoboken, New Jersey. One who has had a certain kind of a record, but in whose character he doesn't find true criminality. But the man has become a nuisance. And in this fight with this other second defendant who was up before him, he says to him, in effect, you'll either go to prison down in Trenton, in the capital of New Jersey, or you'll get out of my district. You'll get out of Hoboken and you'll get out of Hudson County. I never want to see you again. And that's rather accepted by that person who has, I say later on, a certain success elsewhere for this leniency. And to the second man, who's a drunk, basically, and intoxicated more often than he is sober, he sends him actually to the top floor of the local hospital where there's a detoxifying unit floor, and says, you go there and you come back afterwards to show me that it's more or less worked. And we'll talk later on, but that's the first thing you do. Rather than go to jail, that's what he does. In other words, he finds certain fair, and I think I could say humane decisions that he can make for the people. He's a thoughtful and basically, though brusque, kind person. By the way, in that story, the detoxified defendant comes back. He's a big presence physically. The judge has lost his present bailiff, and so he hires the detoxified person who is now a functioning human being he thinks and can work for him. So there's a kind of happy ending there. Well, that kind of scene and those kinds of characters are completely unavailing in France. You'd think, well, there's no counterpart of that in France. But there is, in the sense that the Sephardic heroine is basically, in the years 1940 to 1945, escaping occupation and Nazi forces that are after anybody Jewish in order to destroy them. How does she do that? How does she get away with 4 or 5 years of escape? Well, not by herself, but through certain acquaintances. While there are malign forces, including the French police, working in collaboration, as we see in the course of the book, and as we know anyway, there are also people who get off false identity papers, who find places for refuge temporarily here in Toulouse or out in the countryside and so on. So there are humane, human, and helpful, crucially helpful people there. Societies in both places have their villains. The supreme one in New Jersey is I would call him a wicked landlord, about which there is a very, I think, strong story in the New Jersey part. And there are malign people in France, as we know too. So there's a mixture. But in retrospect, I see now that there are these elements, these people who show humaneness and consideration in various ways in the 1930s in New Jersey and in the 1940s in France. I don't mean to say that I deliberately look for uplift, but it happened.